I say go. Ready? Set? Go for it.
Our presentation on the effect of food waste on the environment in the United States of America. This is what we'll be covering. First, I'm going to talk about the background of food waste. A 2014 study done by J.C. Bubsey showed that 40% of the total food produced in the United States of America is wasted. This is enough food to fill up 730 football stadiums. Food waste in America started in the 1600s when the settlers came to America. This escalated after World War II due to the rise of consumerism. This new wave of consumerism allowed for cheaper and faster production of food, and this increased food waste. In this graph, you can see in the 1960s, the average food waste per year was around 10 million tons. In less than a decade, the average food waste increased to 30 to 40 million tons. This is our research question, which is, to what extent does food waste lead to environmental degradation in the United States of America?
Now I will be talking about the environmental impact of food waste. Food waste poses a huge problem to the environment. 98% of the food Americans waste ends up in landfills. Of this, when the food decomposes, it releases 20% of anthropogenic emissions of methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Methane is not only the second most abundant greenhouse gas in our atmosphere, but is also 21 times more effective at trapping heat compared to carbon dioxide, majorly contributing to global warming. According to Mohajan from the International Journal of Economic and Political Integration, methane accounts for not only 16% of total global emissions, but also contributes to 25% of the current climate change. Methane is degrading our environment by adding on to the increasing problem of global warming. Global warming is the long-term gradual increase of the average temperatures of the Earth's waters, atmosphere, land surface, all resulted by human activities. This then causes drought, flooding, sea level rise, and many more environmental issues in different parts of the world. If we don't control the amount of waste we produce, by 2030 it's estimated this wastage will increase by 1/3, further increasing climate change.
Now we'll be discussing the social impact of food waste. It is estimated that about 1/3 of the food produced for human consumption is wasted, and despite this tremendous amount, a typical 4-person American household wastes nearly $1,500 worth of usable food every single year. These numbers are bound to become even more dire, affecting an increasing number of people throughout the country. This includes our family members, our friends, our neighbors, our classmates, and more, unless it is understood how society contributes to such a harmful number. Their suffering can be traced back to daily practices in society. There are also a myriad of negative impacts that this burgeoning amount of food waste has on the environment, and many are a direct result of cultural and social influences for which everyone is held accountable. Sociocultural factors can include consumer lifestyle, purchase routines, and consumer values. David Evans is a lecturer in sociology and a Sustainable Consumption Institute research fellow at the prestigious University of Manchester. Evans' in-situ research of a working-class couple revealed that the couple routinely purchases more food than they eat, and Evans' research also revealed that this was common amongst most households across this country and stems from the socially instilled desire to have a surplus of food over a deficit for comfortable living. Although this might not seem like a huge amount for individual households in their weekly purchases, this accumulates over the course of a year for households across the country, therefore connecting back to the aforementioned statistic.
Now that we've established that food waste is an issue in the United States of America, it's important that we go over some potential solutions to restrict this issue. The first one would be educating consumers. In order to educate consumers, many programs have been put into action, one of which being the Food Waste Challenge. This was a program that was devised by a group of researchers at Fort Hays State University. This was targeted to educating students who are the new generation about food waste at local and global levels. The pros of this issue are that it allows for cultural shifts in the way that consumers value food. However, we cannot always control what happens behind closed doors. Another solution is improving the food labeling guidelines. I'm sure we're all familiar with the different types of food labels that come on foods. This includes the sell-by, best-by, and expiration dates. While they all may seem like the same thing, they really aren't. The only date that really determines when you should throw out food is the expiration date. This often confuses retailers and consumers, and this confusion is caused by overlapping guidelines of different government agencies such as the USDA or the United States Department of Agriculture and the Food and Drug Administration. The pros are that informed consumers by the pros of the solution are that informed consumers by providing a more accurate date as to when which can prevent food waste. The cons are that it does not entirely address this issue.
So our third solution is anaerobic digestion plants. Anaerobic digestion plants, or AD plants, are facilities used to convert organic waste, in this case food waste, into biogas and digestate. In these facilities, in the absence of oxygen, microorganisms break down food waste before it can produce harmful emissions of methane. This then produces the biogas and digestate that can be used for multiple purposes. Biogas is an environmentally friendly renewable energy source composed of methane, carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfuride, water vapor, and many other gases. It can be used to generate electricity and heat to power our houses and vehicles. Digestate is the residual material left over after this process, made up of solid and liquid components. It can be used as a fertilizer, soil amendment, organic compost for bio-based products, and many more purposes. It is both cost and energy efficient, and also reduces the amount of wastage materials. Overall, this process reduces the amount of anthropogenic emissions of methane entering our atmosphere, further contributing to the decrease of climate change. This process is divided into 4 steps. Number 1 is hydrolysis. In this step, bacteria breaks down organic polymers into simple sugars. Number 2 is acetogenesis. In this step, acetogenic bacteria converts simple sugars and amino acids into carbon dioxide, hydrogen, and organic acids. And the third step, acetogenesis. Acetogenic bacteria convert organic acids into carbon dioxide and hydrogen and acetic acid. And the fourth and final step, methogenesis, is where single-celled organisms called methogens convert the intermediate products into biogas. The leftover solid and liquid components, the digestate, is made up of materials that microbes cannot use and dead bacteria.
So our final potential solution is the Farm Bill, which is an agricultural bill passed every 5 years. And as of 2023, the bill expired, so a part of our complex solution is a revised and amended Farm Bill for the future. We'll discuss more about it in the complex solutions.
Alright, so let's move on to the complex solution. So as a team, we've devised a system in which to deal with food waste. So of course, food is produced at farms. So it starts at farms, goes all the way to retailers, as you can see here. And retailers are the ones who process the food and sell it to consumers, and they also collect the food waste. So our system was that when you send the food over to the retailers, it's better to send the food waste directly back, thus reducing fuel emissions. This waste is then transported back to farms and used in their anaerobic digesters, as Mamlika previously said. These produce natural gas, which can generate electricity, which can be sold to the government, or it can be used to power the farms themselves. In addition, they produce compost, which can be used as fertilizer, as Mamlika said, and they can also be sold to other farms, generating profit for this farm itself. Now, you might ask, who's going to fund all of this? Well, the government plays a major part. In fact, the government is the one that gives grants. Like she said, we're going to make revisions to the Farm Bill. So those grants are going to incentivize the retailers and also the farms to do these processes. So in conclusion, farms get a win, they get profits. Retailers get a win, they get government grants, and government is happy as well because it's a sustainable system. However, we do have to address the economic limitations of such a large project. For example, the average cost to start a digester is about $1.2 million. No farmer has that laying around. So, and in addition, the average operating cost is $20,000. And usually they have to pay about $20,000 to $50,000 out of pocket. In addition, when you're funding such a large program, you have to consider that the agriculture department does have other programs as well, which can increase the rate of cuts to this program. However, there are some promising results. For example, according to a study from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, plants with a total annual capacity of 9.3 million metric tons give an 8.3% return on profit, reducing carbon dioxide by approximately 1 million metric tons annually. To give perspective for this, one person produces about 14.3 tons of carbon annually. In addition, $4.8 million was made while eliminating 20 million metric tons of carbon dioxide in 20 years, providing reason that this is a profitable process. In addition, the implementation of such small-scale digesters could result in the government providing interest in this program, further adding funding to this program and also increasing the amount of anaerobic digesters, decreasing food waste. Finally, let's take a look at this graph here. As you can see, the current practice of disposing food waste is landfilling, and as you can see, there's a vast difference between how much net emissions the baseline of anaerobic digestion produces and how much the GHG emissions of current practice produces, demonstrating that AB digesters could really be the solution to this problem.
So finally, there's no real way to completely eliminate food waste in our society. However, it is possible to restrict it through many solutions. It's estimated, as Madhulika said before, it's estimated that food waste will increase by 1/3 in 2030. For this reason, the USDA, or the United States Department of Agriculture, has set a national goal to decrease food waste by 50% by 2030. Ultimately, it comes down to us as consumers to reduce food waste and make our environment sustainable for future generations. These are, we're excited.
Awesome.
Thank
Alright, just hang out 1 second, guys. Finish my thought. We don't start talking yet. Because they have to do their oral, nope, because they have to do their oral defense. Just give me 1 second. Alright. You guys could spread out if you don't want to stand directly. I know what it's like to look at that light. It's pretty blinding. So you can spread out if you want to the sides. Alright, so I'm going to start with you. So as we're reflecting on your group mates' research and work, whose research do you feel had the greatest impact on the solution that you guys came up with and kind of the route that you guys decided to go in the presentation?
So I feel like Madhulika's research impacted our solution the most. Originally, we were just going to go with the Farm Bill, amending the Farm Bill, which was talked about in Prakul's paper. However, when Madhulika discussed anaerobic digestion plants and those type of plants, and it allowed us to compose a more complex solution, and this basically impacted our complex solution as a whole.
Okay. So, cool. How did you guys as a group decide to include Aditi's research into this overall presentation?
Okay, so when we looked at the topic overall, food waste, we realized that there's 2 parts, consumer behavior and producer behavior as well, which is companies. So Madhulika and we focused mainly on how producers, such as companies, they produce food waste, while Aditi had a different stance on this topic, how consumers produce food waste. We thought that was an equally important aspect of this problem, so we decided to include her research and in the slides. As you can see, she talked about consumer behavior and how that affects how much food waste the people produce.
Okay. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so what is an example of research or an argument or an idea that one of your group mates found or included in their IRR that you guys decided to exclude, and why did you cut it?
Okay, so I have to say that we cut Sia's research paper the most. Sia was the futuristic lens, so she talked about all the future implications of climate change and food waste. But like right now we were focusing on what's currently happening and the current situation because we wanted to address the current situation to prevent the future stuff from happening. So like we mentioned like statistics from hers, like the 1/3 of wastage will increase by 2030. But she mentioned a lot more details, like she said something about it's the Louisiana subsidies, and she talked about how water levels are rising, and because of this, like it will like flood the land surface and stuff, and we couldn't include all this because right now we're like talking about the current climate change because of food waste.
Awesome. Good job, guys. Go ahead, you can clap for them again. Sorry. You ready?
Yeah.
That's my bad. It's my morning too. I apologize. I have a question prepared for you. So what do you guys feel like, or what do you feel like is a gap in your group's research? So as you guys have now completed the project, has anything come up that you didn't really have an answer for as a group? Is there something that you, if you had more time, you wish that you guys as a collective team would have talked about or would have had more information about?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I did talk about like the sociology behind food waste, like how it comes from individual households. But because we focus a lot on producers since they're the root of the problem, we did not have enough time to go over like the consumers and how we could like affect like Sia said, we can't control what they do behind closed doors. But if granted more time, we would definitely do more in-depth research on the consumer aspect of it and really try to figure out what we can do in order to get the consumers to maybe cooperate or care about this a little bit more.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. It's okay. Somebody else is gonna get up and another seat will be open and nobody has a seat today. That belongs to them.